social circle later. June? You guys help her do that, okay? You need that. So guys, the next person who's on the docket today is a crazy guy. This guy goes to hospitals, this guy goes into stores with tutus on and just gets ready to toe dance with the people trying to lay down some of these rules. People put your hands together for Paul Irwin.
Thank you. I'm a crazy person that can't keep his mouth shut in public.
Crazy people!
That's what we all gotta do. So everywhere you go, just remember to be vocal, and it's the tone you say it in. You know, people might say that you're ignorant, you have a big mouth or whatever, but if you say it politely, if you talk politely, like Chris said, everyone's already looking at you because you have no mask. You stand out like a sore thumb, so you might as well just throw a couple of comments out there. Hey guys, you know that all you have to say is you have a medical condition? That's what I say to people in the store, and hopefully other people follow suit, right? Other things I was thinking of, even like just when there's a hockey game or something, going outside Scotiabank Arena, you know, outside of the bubble that the athletes are playing in, and you know, stick handle the ball, bring a couple signs with us. You know, or go outside the COVID testing center and walk by with a couple signs saying fake testing, or I don't know, just wherever you are. Like I keep signs in my car, the stickers on my car. That's another thing. Once again, there's so many people that are like approach me, be like, I know, I agree with you. That's amazing. Can I take a picture? Yeah, and then I sell them a sticker. So like these things work big time in terms of spreading the word. So I know, like I said this before, I just wanted to say it again because, yeah, every day, it's like you don't have to be behind the scenes shooting emails and stuff. We have people that are doing amazing things like that, right? But we can just be doing stuff on the fly everywhere we go. So, yeah, let's keep going. I got stickers too, so come up if you want to buy one.
Exactly what he said. Okay, thank you, Paul. Next up, we have Kieran. Take it away.
Oh, yeah, Kieran. Hey, thanks, Colin. You listen to what's happening in the news with Australia just becoming an outright police state. It's not even hidden anymore. Over 300 deaths. And New Zealand's going back into lockdown over 4 cases. Like 4 fucking cases. And you wonder, how long is it going to take people to wake up? Like, to realize that they've been duped and finally do something, right? But the reality is that they've invested their entire life story and their whole ego in the system that they're a part of. And to come to the realization that the system has been a lie the whole time and that they've just been a slave doing what their master has told them to do their entire life, and everything that they thought was good was really, you know, just kind of in service of an agenda that doesn't benefit them. It's too much for them to handle. And they refuse to see it just because they can't handle the pain that that's going to take. And it's a pain that I think everybody in this audience has gone through at some point in their lives, sooner or later. So they never had anybody to tell them that they could define their own narrative and they could write their own story of their lives. And they weren't beholden to some authority higher up who was telling them what they should do and what they should be and how they should behave. And now everybody's being told how to behave with the masks. And they've really convinced the public that masks are necessary and that masks should be worn at all times in all places for every single person, really. And they are muzzles, right? And so it's the difference between how somebody in this audience would feel wearing the mask. It's a muzzle. It's a symbol of your lack of bodily autonomy. But for everybody else, it's a symbol, it's a talisman for their safety. I have my mask on, I'm safe. I can feel okay. I don't need to be as afraid. A little bit afraid, yeah, but not as afraid. But they're doing it in some places on the basis of public polling. And if you look at public polling, for instance, there's a poll that gets done every 2 weeks in 5 Western countries. So
never forget the meeting. You never forget that.
Yeah. Woo! Woo!
People hear you.
Polling. So they surveyed 1,000 people from 5 different Western countries, I think Sweden, France, Germany, UK, and the US. And everywhere but Sweden, they had like 80+% agreement that everybody should be wearing masks. Sweden was actually like 15%, so if you ever wanted to go to Sweden, now is a great time. No lockdown in Sweden. So, but then in the next section they ask, how many people in your country have died of coronavirus? And the average response in the US was 9% of the population. Which, even if we look at the official numbers, is about 225 times the actual deaths. So the people who are supporting masks don't even have the slightest clue what's actually going on, even if they accept the official numbers. It's ridiculous. But now that masks have become mandatory and it's become a moral issue, you're an immoral, selfish person if you don't wear the mask. And they have come up with all sorts of narrative justifications, saying that it's similar to a seatbelt, or it's like not smoking indoors, or it's like just obeying traffic signs. And they're all specious arguments, because it's not like any of those things. The mainstream narrative with masks is they help protect other people. So immediately, it's not like a seatbelt. A seatbelt is supposed to protect yourself, but I do think that people should have a choice about whether they want to wear it. If they do get injured, I think that should be on them. They shouldn't make anybody else pay for the decisions they make. And so, if I could sign a form saying, I waive the right to all free medical treatment for COVID, I just don't have to obey any of these bullshit orders, I would sign that in a second. And then they say it's like smoking indoors. But it's not, because you make a choice to smoke indoors. And wearing a mask, it's just pathologizing just being a human. It pathologizes humanity. Smoking indoors, yeah, it pollutes other people's lungs. It harms people around you. So it's reasonable that we shouldn't smoke indoors, from my perspective. But with a mask, it's just saying, you as a human, you are dangerous. Even if you're not sick, you're a threat. Which is completely ludicrous and really, really damaging to the human spirit, I think. And then they say it's like following traffic signs. But when you're in a car, you've left the human ecosystem, now you're in the traffic ecosystem. And we didn't evolve to drive cars, and so we need help. And it's a distributed system where everybody needs to follow certain regulations to ensure that it flows smoothly, because it's something totally new. Cars haven't been around for thousands of years, they've been around for 100 years. Whereas we have an immune system that's evolved over millions of years, and we have a behavioral immune system that keeps us away from things that we know that can cause sickness. So we need to not accept the frame that society and the people around us are pushing. We need to assert our own frame. Wherever we go, we need to behave as though there is no pandemic. Because there is none. So like, when you go anywhere, see if you can get people to shake your hand. See if you can hug somebody. Like, even if they're wearing a mask, maybe you can take them off. I was at a gym a few days ago, and one of the employees have to wear masks, but eventually he took off his mask and started working out with us a little bit. And I just told him, you know, it's great to see your face. And he smiled at me. He was really happy to hear that. And at the end of the day, I gave him a hug. So it's just embodying the behavior that we want everybody else to exhibit. Because that's what everybody does. They see you not wearing a mask and they shame you, they glare at you, they make snide comments. We need to do the opposite of that. And whenever we see somebody not wearing a mask, not taking this seriously, behaving like a human being, we need to reward them with some positive reinforcement. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Kieran. Okay, next up we got Wayne.
Thanks, Colin. Hello, all you beautiful beings of light. We've all come here because at some point we've realized and seen through the bullshit that we've been fed and really kind of know what's going on. And each of you, I'm sure, has a fascinating story about how you came to that awareness, that you realize the mainstream narrative doesn't make sense, that the media's been lying to us all this time. And also, many of you have had some kind of spiritual awakening as well as part of this cognitive awakening. And stepping into that spiritual identity and taking that spiritual power that is ours. And this is what they are terrified of. And this is why they're acting so rushed right now. And so, you know, I try to explain this to some people, and they say, well, who are they? Like, you keep talking about they. Who are they? And I think, you know, are they even human? They're certainly engaged in anti-human behavior. And at the very least, this is this old boys network that operates through all of these secret societies and all these social engineering global affairs groups. They have infiltrated the highest levels of government, industry, media, entertainment, finance, and you know, they've got their secret handshakes and they scratch each other's backs. So we have to stand up to that now, and with the full realization that we are powerful spiritual beings. Yeah. So where is this all headed? I think most of you know. We've got the masks fully engaged for the most part. We're going to have Operation Second Wave coming soon with contact tracing in place, quarantines. They're building isolation centers all over the place. You know, is it going to take people having their children taken away from their homes and put into concentration camps for people to stand up? It might come to that. So what I want to do quickly here is to actually have a little bit of an education system, and I know Colin wants me to do this quick, but I want to break down the what is driving all of this fear campaign and the number of cases and all of these draconian measures is the testing and the test results. And in Canada, we are using the nasal swabs and the RT-PCR test. So I want to break that down for you quickly, how fraudulent this testing is. So just quickly, there's three types of testing. There's an antigen testing. I don't know too much about that. That measures for viral proteins. There's the antibody testing, which measures antibodies to, but that's very confusing because it can confuse the results with a number of other viruses. But I want to focus on the RT-PCR test. So the actual PCR procedure was developed in the 80s by Kerry Mullis. He won a Nobel Prize for this work and a Japan Prize. It's a very prestigious scientific award. And it is an extremely important achievement in the 20th century. It's regarded as one of the most outstanding achievements in science in the last century. And it is designed to just replicate DNA. It is just used for medical research, forensics, all kinds of medical type studies, where they can blow up and replicate DNA so they got enough of it they can study it. It was never designed as a test. Kerry Mullis said this should never be used as a diagnostic test. And I'm going to tell you why that is. So first of all, they haven't isolated and purified the virus. And to do that, this is the gold standard of the test. This is how they need to test the tests to see how accurate they are. They've never done it. So there's no way to know how accurate these tests are, but I want to just illustrate what goes on in these tests. So the first part is they do the nasal swab. They'll get some RNA, maybe, right? And that RNA could come from all kinds of different sources, other viruses, other bacteria, other human cells. There's no way to discern that this RNA comes from a coronavirus. They don't do that. It's not in the test procedure. So right off the bat, you've got...
Guys, can you lower your voice while this man's speaking?
Yes. So right off the bat, you've got a big confusion. This can be triggered by all these other viruses and all these other contaminants. So we're not off to a good start, right? But it gets better. So the first part of this test procedure is reverse transcription, and this is a way to change RNA into DNA. And the way you have to, the amplification process only works with DNA, so you have to change it in RNA. There's wide variance in how efficient that transfer process is. So you might get like 10%, you might get 100%, 50%, and this has huge results in whether the test becomes negative or positive, right? Whether you're starting with one strand of RNA or you're starting with 100, right? So there's another step in the process that errors can be introduced. So then each testing lab may have different machinery, equipment. There's all kinds of different testing equipment, different manufacturers. Each of them gives different results. There's no standardization on this testing in terms of the equipment that they're using. So there's another one. Now, what happens with the amplification process, the polymerase chain reaction, it's called? Okay, I'm getting to it. All right, how to summarize this? So basically, the way they determine whether a test is positive or negative is how many cycles it takes for this light to show up to make it positive, right? And those numbers, those cycle numbers, are arbitrary. They're different across countries, different across different laboratories. So I've got a lot more to talk about here, but I'm kind of in a rush. So that's another source of error, is that arbitrary cycle number that they determine is the cutoff for positive and negative. Even with the same lab, same equipment, same patients, there's studies that the results have flipped back from positive to negative to positive, and there's no consistency here. So that's another source of error. So this test don't tell you how much the virus is in your body. When you think about it, you get some virus. You know, most of our immune system is very complex, and we fight it off in a number of different ways. So to get sick, you have to have a lot of this virus introduced in your body, and these tests don't tell you that at all. So, and there's no satisfaction of the Koch's postulates which prove this virus causes disease.
Brother. Give me 1 second. When we leave these things, everybody keeps the next thing they want to say, and it's important. Listen up. Let him finish. He's got 30 more seconds. Okay.
Okay, I'm just going to wrap it up then. You guys can come to me if you want more detail, but basically this is a war on the physical plane and the spiritual plane. And they're getting desperate and pulling out all the stops. So the good news is we have already won, and we have a trump card, and it's not Trump. Our trump card is that we've got God on our side. We're here representing God. We've shown up for this fight. We signed up for this. You may not remember signing that contract, but that's exactly why you're here. At this crucial time in human history. You are here, and I am very honored to be among you fellow warriors.
Okay, Julie, you're up next, guys.